Rust. A game where you wake up on the shore of a strange island, completely naked, with only a rock and a torch. Your main task is to survive as long as possible, but how you do that is entirely up to you. Along the way, you'll come across a bunch of other nakeds, wild animals, scientists, bandits, decayed monuments emitting radiation, and all sorts of other stuff. But what is this island? Where it's located? Who are these scientists? Who built all these monuments? And most importantly, what happened here? For some reason, the developers haven't given us any clues about the story in Rust. So today, we'll try to uncover all the secrets Facepunch has kept from us, and finally get to the bottom of Rust's backstory. I've spent a lot of time gathering all the information from various YouTube videos, Reddit posts, and other platforms to get the full picture of Rust lore. So please, hit that like button below and subscribe to the channel, it helps me a lot. With that said, let's get into the first chapter, Monuments and the island itself. The first thing you'll come across while traveling is red towns. These red towns are decayed, abandoned facilities that were once full of life. If you open the map and take a look at all the monuments on it, you can see that they're all part of the island's overall infrastructure. Power plant, ports, airfield, train yard, oil rigs, satellite dishes, roads and railways all suggest that the island was once home to some industrial activity. And if you take a closer look at these monuments, Soviet trucks ZIL-131 and other Soviet equipment will immediately catch your eye. But these aren't the only things related to the Soviet Union. The launch site monument is pretty much just a copy of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, which was built back during the Soviet era. A lighthouse that looks just like a real lighthouse on Sakhalin Island. And of course, the bus stops, which look very much like old bus stops in Kazakhstan. So, looking at all this, we can say that the island was owned by the Soviets. But that's not right, because there isn't a single Russian letter on the island. All the signs are only in English, and even the prices in stores are listed in dollars. On top of that, you'll also find some American cars all over the island, including Ford sedans and some other cars. But most importantly, for some reason, launch site is protected by American Bradley, and there are American helicopters flying over the map, patrolling the area, as well as American planes dropping airdrops. So, what the hell is this island, where the Soviets built some crazy facilities during the Cold War, likely in the late 60s? And why the hell are new American vehicles protecting this place now? Let's gather all the facts to answer these questions. We are on a huge island with its own infrastructure, far from civilization, somewhere in the ocean, with lots of oil in the water and precious metals in the soil. Moreover, this island must have positive political ties with the Soviet Union. Based on all of this, and after watching an 8-year-old video by Shadowfrax, in which he analyzed the night sky and found the latitude of this island, we can conclude that we are somewhere in the southern part of the Atlantic Ocean, near Angola. Also, according to Wikipedia, Angola ranks 19th among countries in terms of oil extraction, which explains the presence of oil rigs next to the island. And if that's not enough, again, according to Wikipedia, more than 75% of the world's cobalt is mined in the neighboring country of Congo. Thanks to all this information, we're slowly getting closer to solving the mystery. But why exactly is cobalt so important? This is where the second chapter of this video begins. We'll try to find out what they were doing on this island. If you were paying close attention, you would have noticed the posters located on various red towns throughout the island. There are a total of 6 types of posters in the game, divided into 2 categories: the space program and genetic research. If you look closely, you'll see mentions of space travel to other planets on a few of the posters, along with the codename Project Nova. The next 2 posters mention research in the field of genetics and nuclear energy. Another poster shows a flower in 3 stages of its life circle, along with the captions "Regeneration Program" and "Lending Nature a Helping Hand." And the last poster is the strangest one. Here we can see a man, as well as several captions: Cobalt Employee Reward, and most importantly, Immortality. It looks like there were genetic experiments on the island, first on plants and then on people, and the company's top employee was offered immortality as a reward. And if you go to the underwater lab or the military tunnels, you'll find some very strange vials with human beings inside them. If we put all this information together, we can assume that while a large-scale space program was underway on the surface, there were experiments going on underground to make humans immortal and able to regenerate. And this scientist was behind all of this. Speaking of scientists, these blue gentlemen raise a lot of questions. Even though they look like human, they most likely aren't. When the developers first added the scientists to the game, they mentioned it directly in the dev blog. Are they even human? So this could be what we're seeing as the result of genetic experiments. Another interesting thing is that if you cut up another player, you'll get bones, cloth, fat, meat and skull. But if you cut up an NPC, you'll only get cloth and bones. Also, if you look at their clothing, you can see a biohazard symbol, which you don't usually see on a default radiation suit. This symbol indicates the actual or potential presence of biological materials that carry a significant health risk, such as viral samples, medical waste, or infectious agents, which once again confirms that these NPCs are artificially created and probably not humans. The next really interesting places on the map that raise a lot of questions are the safe zones. Outpost is one of the most unique monuments on the entire map. It's the only place where the scientists don't try to kill you. Instead, they just ignore you. The scientists here are different too. They wear green suits instead of blue ones. In this city, players can buy or sell different items or resources, and also use local services. For example, you can recycle components, refine oil, craft something at the first workbench, cook meat, and so on. It's really great to see that for some reason, all these NPCs in this monument are so friendly and helpful, doing everything they can to make things easier for you in these tough survival conditions. However, this city doesn't inspire much love or trust in me. From a scientific point of view, this city is ideal for studying communication skills among players, as it features various chill zones that allow players to safely socialize and interact with one another, and scientists would be able to safely observe this from a distance and pass this information on. But what about other safe zones, like Bandit Camp, Floating City, Fishing Villages or Rancho? Based on the names and looks of these monuments, we can guess that they were probably made by bandits or pirates, who had nothing to do with the island itself, but arrived here later. The main evidence of this is that all the NPCs here, be it guards, traders and so on, are normal people. Also, if you read the poster in Bandit Town, you'll see that these bandits haven't always been friendly towards normal players. They did everything they could to scare off other players, with posters warning of dangers, so nobody would go near that city. I guess that these bandits are simply uninvited guests who arrived on the island, and for some reason, the local scientists couldn't kick them out. Another interesting poster here says nakeds not welcome. And now, let's try to find out who are these nakeds and how they end up on this island. An old legend says that the characters we play are actually prisoners who were sent to this island for genetic experiments. And at this point, there are 2 pieces of evidence to support this theory. First of all, the developers have added new character models to the game that, well, obviously look like prison inmates. Second, as you may recall, there's an official map in the game called Happy's Island, and Happy's translates from Turkish as prison or imprisonment, which once again confirms that we are playing as prisoners. But how exactly did these prisoners end up on this island? I think it's simple. They were brought here illegally by cargo ships in these containers and unloaded at the port, after which they were sent by train to military tunnels for experiments. As soon as all the research was completed, they were simply set free and allowed to use the island however they liked. The only condition was that they weren't allowed to leave the island. And to protect themselves, the scientists changed the prisoners' DNA so that they couldn't survive outside the island, since the air outside became poisonous to them as soon as they left the island. This explains the huge number of junk piles in the ocean, since they used to be rafts that other prisoners used to try to escape from this island, but of course they didn't succeed. So, with all this information and our guesses, here's what the Rust backstory is likely to be. Once upon a time, there was a scientist named, for example, Nicholas
Jackson.
He was studying nuclear energy, but then he found enough evidence to say that one chemical element, namely cobalt, could totally change human history. Thanks to cobalt, humanity could have achieved major scientific breakthroughs that would have changed the world forever. Dr. Jackson approached the US government and presented his research and plans, and requested funding for his projects. However, the US government rejected his plan because they thought it wouldn't work. The scientist wasn't going to give up on his ideas, so he approached the Soviet government to see if they'd be willing to support him. After looking over his research, the Soviet government agreed to fund the project. To keep all the experiments secret from the outside world, the Soviet Union assigned the scientist a private, secret island in the Atlantic Ocean, near Angola. Dr. Jackson brought all the top specialists he knew to the island, and that's exactly how Cobalt got started. With the Soviet Union support, the island started working on its own infrastructure to become completely self-sufficient. According to the plan, the island was to be equipped with all the necessary facilities for research work within a short period of time. And to avoid wasting time, the first thing they did was dig a military tunnel to store supplies, equipment, and construction tools. It was inside these tunnels that they set up the research center, where the professor and his team conducted their first studies on plants. When the professor got some good results with plant regeneration, he decided to try the same thing with humans. By that time, they'd already finished building the launch site and started putting together the first rocket for spaceflight. The original idea was to create an immortal human and send them into space to conduct various studies and experiments. But to make sure everything went smoothly, the doctor decides to do experiments on animals first. Because of this delay, the launch site decided to build a second backup rocket in case something happened to the first one. So, once the animal experiments had been successfully completed, all that was left for the scientists to do was to find volunteers to conduct the first trials to create an immortal human being. And unfortunately, it was exactly the moment when the Soviet Union collapsed. The money ran out and all the research stopped. The United States immediately took advantage of this and invaded the island. They took over all the monuments, changed the traffic signs, and implemented the American currency. The US forces set up one major base, consisting of a number of concrete houses as well as sheet metal shacks and tents. They also set up a satellite dish in the middle to help with communications. But why would America want to put so much work into a desolate island? Well, Jackson was the head of the scientific group on the island, and the US government knew about it because he asked them for help at first. And since all the work is almost done, they decided to take full control over it. I mean, the island already has full infrastructure, is rich in cobalt, and it has a lot of oil. And we know that America loves oil. The island was also desolate, which meant no risk of scientists escaping, or any risk of anyone stealing the technology. Well, that answers how and why the island came to be. But what happened to the island after, and how it got so destroyed? The US government noticed what Jackson was researching, but decided to push his research into another direction. Although immortality was very appealing, the US was still in an arm race with Russia, and needed to find better weapons. Without much of a choice, Dr. Jackson created a nuclear weapon powered by Cobalt. The weapon itself created intense amounts of radiation within a large-scale area, leaving it uninhabitable for years. The prototypes were made on a small scale, but after a few tests, he was worried that if they were used the wrong way, they could end the entire human race. He couldn't let this technology fall into the wrong hands, but he didn't have many options. The only solution he saw was to destroy both himself and the island. His plan was to set these cobalt bombs in the essential locations on the island, such as the power plant, satellite dishes, and military tunnels. Even though the radiation didn't reach the base itself, there wasn't enough supply to help the few survivors. In the end, nothing survived on the island. Teams of scientists tried to go back and recover what was left of the island, but even with the new red suits, they couldn't prevent the extreme radiation. The island was not visited for decades to come. The year is 2020, and the level of radiation has decreased to the point where scientists can safely examine the island. The initial blast sites of the cobalt bombs were still extremely radioactive, and almost every building on the island was still uninhabitable. The only place that wasn't affected by radiation was the military base, but at that point, it was nothing but a pile of junk. The research team was unable to find any studies on cobalt bombs or any other weapons, but what they did find was way more valuable. After they killed the animal for research, they watched it get up and walk around straight away, looking totally healthy and active again. Soon after, they found the underwater labs with active human vials, so they decided to start experiments on humans. The US began sending military forces, such as helicopters, tanks, planes, and weapons, to help with research into immortality. Soon after, they shipped prisoners in containers on a cargo ship and released them on the island with one goal of creating immortal soldiers. And to keep an eye on them, they decided to use the artificially created NPCs they found in the labs. This version explains why there are huge Chinese, Russian, or American clans on the map. They're just typical prisoners who band together and form a gang to survive on the island. Once there were enough prisoners on the island, the US Army decided to leave, giving everything over to the artificial NPCs and providing them with military equipment to defend the most critical facilities. These NPCs are responsible for keeping an eye on the prisoners and passing on information to command, as well as protecting essential facilities on the island. But very soon, bandits appeared on the island and took over the local gold mine. For some reason, the NPCs were unable to fight them off, so the bandits built a small camp around the gold mine. To scare off the local inmates, they put up a bunch of posters and set up security. However, the gold mine soon broke down, and the bandits didn't have the parts to fix it. To avoid losing income, they began trading weapons and various goods with the locals, as well as selling them various vehicles and providing services. And as prisoners, all we can do is try to survive on this island, using some help from bandits and avoiding scientists, with no hope of ever leaving this island. This was my version of Rust lore, which I put together bit by bit using various videos and other sources. If you disagree with anything or have something to add, please feel free to leave a comment below. I'll use the best theories in my next video. Also, if you want to support my channel, you can join the membership and become a real Chad. Here I'll be sharing exclusive tips, tricks and exploits that I find with the community. So if you have the opportunity, I'd appreciate your support. And if you want to learn even more about Rust, then to help you get better, or maybe to teach you something new, here are 20 mistakes that can destroy your progression in Rust.